and also Professor Muhammad Ashrafji from the Mathematics Department and also the Dean of Science. And we have my own friends, Professor Nizamuddin Sanghi and also Atiq Ahmad, who are there in touch with me for a long time. And we have the chairman of the and convener of the program here, Syed Naushad Ahmadji. And also I have a lot of senior friends here whom I know, and in the morning we were also speaking with Professor Japiji and Professor Vaidya and so many other ladies. And also a lot of youngsters. One thing we should appreciate the organizers is we have many youngsters in proportion to the elders who are here, who are ready to give the pattern to the youngsters to take the future of this country. And the topic is being aptly looked into by the organizers from the Geography Department, which has its own legacy, because it started in pre-independence, seen the independence and the post-independence. And we need to retrospect, especially the key element of our security, socio-economic security, which food is one of the important. And for food we need water too. And then the use of it, how it impacts the environment. And are we in for sustainable development? This is a retrospection which we need to take. And then look for how is the future. Because the things are changing very fast than what expected. When we are running, things are going slow. Maybe when Noor Muhammadji's time, things should have been more slow. The things are happening, we have literature, but we need to go to the library and get resources. And maybe the books are not in the library, to get them is very difficult. But today everything is in your fingertips. Any literature, whichever you want to do, things are there with you. The moment you think, there are 100 and more people are thinking elsewhere in the globe. So how do we think and bring certain documentation for future generations? First, I also should congratulate the organizers to bring such wonderful books in this particular, in front of this August gathering, which is also a pattern which is being transferred to others, and also dwell on and look at what are the specific problems of a given area and how well we can come out with certain solutions, because certain solutions also have been suggested, and I also seen in some of the papers we are dealing with AI and machine learning algorithms and how to be used. That's the right direction in which we are here. But also I will dwell with how the technology is emphasis, because most of the time, I don't know how many of you youngsters, but who is there in DAS are aware, many a time there are questions on, do we need to go for space technology when we have a lot of problems in the country? While independence we got, and even the questions are asked, even when we had to go to the moon mission. I do as a young scholar going in the planning commission corridors, telling that how the space technology is used for the common people. But unless we invest into the space sciences and also understanding planetary sciences, we do not have future. I had to give certain numbers to motivate them to give a small budget. But you're all aware that has shown for the first time in the world that there is presence of hydroxy molecules on moon. So our purpose is very clear. We don't have money, but with the little money what we have, when people have landed, brought samples back, what they could not really solidly prove, India could prove that there are hydroxy molecules. May not be all the payloads are not from India, but also from Europe and US and other places. But our purpose is very clear. Here also the Geography Department's purpose is very clear on retrospection and what we want to do. And that is the reason for me to come all the way from Trivananthpuram here to be with you. Because my disciplines, being a geographer too, I migrated into different other areas and then opportunities. But it's tough to be in other disciplines and then come back and keep your root always strong. But very clear for the space technology, because it talks about geography only geography. That's location. Where you are located, what is your neighborhood? There are only two things. And how that influences you, and how you influence the neighborhood. There are only two factors in which the entire geography And whichever geography you take, either agriculture or political or whatever it is. And today, there is one step ahead in terms of what next, prediction. What next is the most important thing which we are doing. So the government, when it gave its first programs to, ISRO took a step in NNRMS, National Natural Resources Management System. What does each department look for? What are they looking for? Where is the gap in terms of the information collection? In fact, the keynote speaker, Professor Noor Mohammed has very clearly told the statistics, how it can play a role. Means it can exaggerate or it can really show you a different figure altogether. So what exactly number can we get? And where is this number? And where it is associated with, if you want to get, that's where we try to show right from the beginning that either for agriculture, water, or ocean resources, or mineral resources, or anything, how we can associate ourselves, what action we do, what reaction it can create, and what intensity can be there, and can it be disastrous for certain our own growth? These are all the possibilities in which it can happen. So luckily I was involved right from the beginning in 1988 when I joined ISRO. All my PhD, entire thing is on aerial photograms, courtesy Professor R. Vaidyanathan, the great geographer, who is a geomorphologist basically, and also my own other professor, R.V. Ramarao, who is actually geoengineering. So he gave me an opportunity to look from geography and geomorphology related to engineering. And then joining in ISRO then came to the science part of it, whether we can look a lot of science objectives in how to relate it and to understand more thoroughly, by like Professor U.R. Rao, who was the chairman at the time. And of course, there's things. So the perspective in which what we look a particular topic today and what looks tomorrow is totally different. Please understand, youngsters. What we today discuss and tomorrow in the change scenario, how it is going. So we have to look back always and see what happened in the past. How did we learn? How did we evolve ourselves? This makes a lot of difference. So I'll go into little few examples here. Because when we came into the picture, we means people like me, we all understood that we are doing reasonably, we are picking up in terms of agriculture production, etc. But there are a lot of understanding differences. So the first thing what the erstwhile Planning Commission has given, kindly give us, because we have a lot of agroclimatic systems in the country. So what are where is the cropping intensity? What is the kharif crop? What is the rabi crop? Broad land use which is needed. And they are given 168 districts to be done digitally, not visually. So we had to use, that time there's machines called wax 11 by 780. They're all, we cannot buy them directly from anywhere else. We are under different bans and restrictions, so it has come from a different route. So there are 5 regional centers to say, because the satellite data has digital number that has more strength than what visibly we see. Visibly we can see and do an interpretation on a light board, etc. But that is not what has been detected. The detected sensors much more than what we can recognize. So how we had to make it more recognizable is a task given. At that time itself we have used rule-based logic because there is no other way, because we have a huge diversity. Our heterogeneity of the resources are enormous. You cannot decide a group like cultivable wasteland, what type of wasteland, what happens in Western Ghats, what happens in foothills of Western Ghats, and what happens in plains and rain-fed agriculture area. Everything varies. There's a lot of variability. If we had to uniformly map for entire country, we had to adopt many techniques, which is also documented in terms of manuals which people are using. So that has become a method of land use, land cover classification, which is customized for the Indian situation, because the Bureau of Economic and Statistics also has to accept, or else it will be aloof, and it is not acceptable for the people when you want to make such kind of retrospections and look into the future person. So being that as a beginning, but we also found there's a huge degradation is happening. Good. But what to do? So we launched a process-based land degradation mapping, taking consultations from different experts from the soils like Bureau of Soil Survey, All India Soil, and the land use planning at the time, and most of the state agriculture departments, because some of the states have done with aerial photograms a soil mapping and degradation in different pockets. It's good to have to understand their strengths and then take it up further. And we have today the land degradation mapping for the entire country into phases. That means in 5 years interval, 2 times it has been done. That means how much is in sheet erosion, drills, gullies, and government also is doing a lot of reclamation methods. So how much it is happening, and we also find in this part of the country we have water logging and soil salinity, and the reclamation methods, reclaiming methods, how much area we could reclaim, and what are the lessons learned so that it doesn't happen again when we have to go for intensive agriculture elsewhere. So these are the type of examples which we have come from. And we also have, one of the things is low fertilizer consumption. We do have a very less fertilizer consumption. Good. But then we are able to get returns. So what is that we have even yesterday when I was traveling from Delhi to here, a lot of land is getting transformed into non-agricultural uses, especially the construction. Because real estate is booming in this country. In many of the developed countries, the real estate is not booming. The people don't go elsewhere. So it's very high time. Many a time I found the governments discussing on land use donation, but they never came very near to it because we are a democracy, and then we had to also satisfy the elected people and also the representatives which are there. So it doesn't happen, but it has to happen, or else we're going to miserably lose out on certain things. But to do that, we have all the data needed to go to the people and tell them very clearly and why we should do. But when you zone it, someone has to sacrifice some things. So we have to also clearly tell in quantification what type of incentive we can give them. This is possible to do. Also from mathematics is here. Everything we can compute and give the numbers in what is that happening. Like how we simulate, if we have to go to the Mars or the Moon, before we land, we simulate every step, what is going to happen there. Everything is known to us while doing it. Such an algorithms are available, such softwares are available, machines are available, and mostly are homemade. They're not imported for your kind of information, because many a time you want to go into very higher areas of technology, no one will share you with the actual things which is there. That's most critical. Why, if you want to do business, you need to know exact science of it and how you are trying to relate to certain else, which is very important. In fact, where Professor Ahmad Saab was telling for Gaganyaan, if you have a crew module, you need to have sensors of the gases which are moving in, because human beings has to live there. So how much is the exchange of gases which is happening? There's called an ELSS, Environmental Life Support System. There's only 2 countries which can give, Russia and US, but they're only giving you a black box. But we said we will develop the gas sensors indigenously in the country. That is where we've taken up the challenge under my guidance. People are doing it in India today. Already we realized, though the pandemic has started after the announcing of Gaganyaan, we are ready. The students are ready. Because we have bright minds in this country. Youngsters are, in fact, you may be thinking you are learning something from me. Most of the time I am learning from interacting with each youngsters like that. We have a huge youngsters in the country which come up with some different ideas. Only we have to accept them. We have to hear to them and understand, and also guide them from a perspective not useful just for you alone, but how it will be useful for a more number of people. That's where the difference comes in. The more number of people, you're not doing charity. Please understand, you're doing business. And also, the learned people here and also of the dais will agree with me, no science and technology will be accepted. We may talk about environment, we may talk about agriculture, sustainable development goals, but finally it's the commerce which decides what you need to do, what not to do. Within that, how do you frame yourself and slowly engulf into it and make the system evolve is up to you as professors, students and researchers. And that is where your business is. Because I learned it the hard way to sell the ideas of environmental impact assessment and environmental management, but I found quickly that these are not the things which the world is looking for, or even individual doesn't looking for, or the banks which has to give you the money. Because you have NABARD, but as a lead bank, everywhere you have a lead bank, you have to enthuse on them to put through. Having understood the problems of water logging, land degradation and land use, land cover, and the potential which technology can do, way back when Professor Yoro was the chairman, we started what is called Integrated Mission for Sustainable Development. Because he understood that we are all going for sectorally, we are really good, but we are not learning or understanding what one figure is trying to do for other, unless as a whole we study a system. If I do some action, how it is going to react in terms of the soils, etc. That we launch a program, but to discuss with the local representatives. That's where we got an opportunity to conduct a lot of meetings in the field, understand from the farmers or the widows who are there, who lost their husbands, because I was in Maharashtra, so I had an access to Maharashtra, Chhattisgarh and Madhya Pradesh, a core area where you have a lot of farmer suicides happen. Why really it happens? Where the mistake is? What is the correction mechanism we can do? How we can hold hands with the widows of the farmers? How we can bring them back into the system? It's possible, and it was possible, and many people got benefited of doing it. But unless you go to the field, that's what I want to tell my young friends here, you have to go to the field. Whether it can be space technology or any other technology, or a technology from human space program which happens, unless you go to the field, first feel what is the problem there by yourself, and then try to look back in technologies how it can help per se in how we can take further person. But then the major problem today, as I was telling you, is we are already touched more than 300 million tons of food, which we think it is sufficient, but it's not sufficient truly. The reason is the nutritive food is not going to the majority of the population, and we have an obligation as having get an opportunity to learn things much earlier, how we can address them much better. That means there are ways and means of it. The reason why I'm mentioning the diversity, even in Jagdalpur, one district in Chhattisgarh, we found there is 71 variety of rice documented. Why didn't we have that variety? It's most important for us, especially in the time of climate change. Any change which hits hard, we need to have a variety which survives. That is where the heterogeneity, and that is where we are lucky in this country to have n number of type of ecosystems in which we can try out and then see what could do. Even I was telling you about horticulture. We had a program in Chaman to look in what are all the horticulture crops which are there in the country. What are the potential areas which are there for horticulture? So that's a horticulture mission the government has launched, so it's going well. And also we have the blue revolution, but we need to have the pasture lands for the cattle, and also certain assessments, and there's a wrong impression in having more livestock, what impacts it can create. To prove those statements of we are major methane producer and which creates environmental problems. So we had to put a lot of instrumentation to prove the exact data to counter such measures which is there. Please understand, the developed world doesn't want you to develop. If you develop, there's no business for them. Please understand, it's very clear. And the world is not fair. We have to struggle for ourselves and come up. So we have to show numbers, actual numbers, and calibrated numbers. Because they ask a question, is this data calibrated? Is it the standards which are operating in international? Okay, we operate for international, we have our own national standards, but how to collaborate for it is most important, in which we need to look for. Then also the soil moisture is very important. Even being a rainfed agriculture crops of 56, and we are already depend upon it. It is high time that we should look very clearly what is the impact. While talking about the sensors, and we go a little deep here. We have microwave remote sensing satellites, and they can penetrate down in the C-band. Now we are going to launch an NISR with NASA and ISRO collaboratively, that is going to have L and S band. So larger wavelength, so penetrates more, you get the soil much better. But where is our agricultural produce coming? Is it coming only from irrigated areas? No. Because 300 million tons definitely is not coming from here. We did watershed development for a very long time, and these are all 500, 1,000 hectares, small pockets. And where the cropping intensities are 101%, they came now to 127% in many of the places, and start on improving also. So if it is so, how do we reach those people? What type of fertilizer should go? Today they are not using basal dosage, they are only doing top dressing. So how to move? So it is not just a scientific idea, it's a business, because all the fertilizer companies are looking for that data. When you can tell exact soil moisture is there, so what is the crop growing window, so which crop can be grown, and what is the fertilizer which can go there, and so on. And that's the business. And per capita water has reduced for each, so that means we have less water today. So the government is looking for demand-based irrigation scheduling. To bear with, all the satellites are giving almost daily data, and also, of course, we could not launch that satellite, didn't work, GISAT, but GISAT is supposed to get information about the crops and their behavior on 2 to 3 times a day. That's the type of data is going to come shortly. But with so much of data, we are able to tell exactly which crop needs how much water. Like, with a small drip goes exactly, even for a rice, you don't need flood irrigation. If you do that, government has readily one scheme of the group of secretaries just come. In the ridges, you can pump this water with non-conventional energy and put a certain efficient method in irrigating more area. That's where we mapped all the wastelands in the country for 3 cycles or 4 cycles for the Minister of Rural Development. So we have all the cultural wastelands, etc. at different places. So location is important, where it is happening is important, and neighborhood, who is the local farmers, in terms of who are the farmers who doesn't have the farmless laborer, where they're going to work. This is where it has to be looked into for very critically. So this is where the future is looking for that. Then what we do? Is it only the space images can give? No. What can do? The soil moisture probes, we know what are the problems of putting a probe, how expensive they are. There's another simple method of 2 different methods which we found out. It's very simple. When the cosmic rays are coming, the neutrons are going to interact with hydrogen, and then you know where exactly you're going to get the soil moisture very precisely. So this is a passive system. So during this pandemic, we made a small device, and those crystals are available within the country. It is just 5 centimeters by 5 centimeters, and then 1 centimeter thick, needs less than 1 watt of power, and it gives you for 200 meters and a depth of 1 meter. What we need? The root zone is covered. And this is where, if you made a tomography, this is where the mathematics come into picture, sir. So we can also get the profiles, even that anything which is underneath in terms of tunnels, inners, everything also we can very precisely. And this is where we are top of it, we are putting IoTs. This is where for the youngsters, when you want to become smart. So the IoTs is actually going to transmit the data. But how do you receive the data communication? That's where the last launch of 36 satellites of OneWeb is not looking for the satellite coverage, but is giving you more bandwidth. That means small people information also, you can transfer with a low cost. You don't have to have the type of, today the data is very expensive on the mobiles. If you want to get very rural field level, the data when you want to transmit real time, and where you process real time and give back. And youngsters like you are doing PhDs now on real time data processing for hyperspectral remote sensing. Hyperspectral gives voluminous of data. Because what will you get 4 spectral bands, it is going to give 256 spectral windows in which huge data comes for a given listing. So we did a FPGA program, that means hardware programming on the satellite itself. So by the time the data is acquired, you also get an information, is there a pest, is there any strategic input, everything is coming out very clearly from these satellites and done by the youngsters what is there. Our job as guiding people to look at such high technology inputs, how it gets right into the local situations and make business out of it. Please understand. Giving to an elected representative doesn't mean anything. How to make business out of it? If you make a business out of it, automatically becomes business. Today, anything, whatever is there with you, is because of business. Not because you thought about or you dreamed about. There might be many inventors, but inventors didn't get much. But who brought that into business is what actually made a lot of difference globally. This is where we understand and put through. Even in watershed development, for my friends, when we started looking for things which can happen at different places, and how a farm pond in central India, which is not there at the time, I was talking about 25 years back, how it can give assured tariff and half the hectarage for Rabi. It was good, everyone understood. But the lead banks are not giving the fund. So then we try to find that in the central India, the rainfall is on an average, it is 600,000 mm of rainfall. And then we looked at the pisciculture can be brought in. That's where Blue Revolution, whatever you are talking about, sir, the pisciculture. Because you can make a fish culture, and that is what the NABARD has suggested for the lead bank fund is. But then, as an academician or whatever it is, as a scientist, I have to stretch beyond my limits, not even being a government servant, go and pursue people and see what is the opportunity. And that's why today now so many farm ponds have come. The old one also are being restored. This is where we went to when you're all aware in 2015, the Honorable Prime Minister has took a review of all the ministries, the 86 ministries, how to use space technology into their day-to-day. We also didn't understand what will be used in skill development, how to do in justice. Today we find that many things of space-related technologies are useful for all the 86 ministries. There's so many projects and it's being implemented at different levels also. But that is when we told what we had two concepts. Assured curry, second is permanent tree crops to sustain the farmer if some losses are there because of the agriculture normally we take. The third one is the blue revolution. That is all the farm ponds which are differently at different places or in Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand, in other parts of Maharashtra and Madhya Pradesh. We have a lot of ponds which are there naturally, which is there occurring for a long time. We showed in some of these ponds 5,000 tons per year you can get in yield, very conservative figure, if that can be made as a business opportunity. In making fingerlings, in 3 months, how the yield will come, like how we make for paddy, how we make a paddy field, and then we try to transplant, etc. Similar to technology. And that has been accepted, and government is releasing money into the group, in the group of secretaries as identified. But what happens in this is, some states does in a different way. Our purpose is to identify in the uplands to make it bring in, but they also do in the coastal areas, and it is also giving environmental problems. More farm ponds in a clay soil also can create problems. Which all you know what happens in a bigger irrigation system. So the role is very important in making the environmental monitoring or an audit of an area of all the activities you do, and then how to make it further, and then make it more impact. And also this has to be formed as a guidelines into this. That's where we ensure, at least I ensure many places, for environmental impact assessment, working with Navy, most of the things are now has become as guideline documents. That's where people ask for certain images or etc. And then a lot of entrepreneurs are working on top of it when we look at such areas. And also the gas sensors for Gaganyaan. My interest is not only Gaganyaan gas sensors. It is there for your daily use. Carbon monoxide. Many people die in this part of the country because of carbon monoxide getting in when they put the heaters etc. Very small sensor. And more numbers coming, this is only 10 rupees and 15 rupees. It can get into your mobile, it can go to your wristwatch, it can go to your skin. So the next level is going into the cellulose, which doesn't need energy also, because it's your energy we can do, and we are working on it. This has gone realization in terms of looking at biosensors, early detection of cancer. When you establish a lab for a sensor, you're not doing just gas, you can do bio. So today we could come out with for breast cancer 2 years before, even the cell start mutating, you can find out. That's a simple test which you can do it at your home. You can find out which cancer is going to come. And this is, the government has asked us now for release for breast, but the more difficult is pancreatic and the lung cancer, which is happening more now today. The lifestyle what we have, and that is where we have gone into and we're working on it. So, my friends, there's no limit for you. Okay, and then the second comes, where it is happening, why it is happening, and what next. These are all geography questions, please understand. So, this is time for us as geographers to look forward and dialogue with people, and then how we can make. And also the ISRO's program, because as a scientific secretary I had a role, how the policy for what type of satellites we have to make, what for taking this, what type of rockets we need to put through. We made applications in 4 major areas. One is on socio-economic security, food, water, aid, and also on shelter, or information, infrastructure. These are all the things which has become a part of socio-economic security. Then the sustainable development, urbanization, even agriculture, as already mentioned, because of the pesticides, etc., what can happen. So everything creates impact. So if you want to make it more sustainable, how we can work out on all these areas is one subject. The second is disaster. Third one is disaster risk reduction. How we prepare ourselves. Most of the time, we try to look at, rehabilitate and do that. But there's a lot of preparation things which is there which we can do. And for that, all data is there. And all the government departments are mandated to keep this data on the public domain. They have to share for you. And now more aggressively it is being told, even for startup companies you have to give this data. It's not only for academic purposes. And if it is not there, you have a grievance cell, put an application, data will come to you. I'm not joking. It is truth. Even the ministry is asking do this, certain departments are not doing it. Within 1 week you are getting the data. Okay? We cannot go for that stage. So, but then data is not a constraint for you to do work with your imagination, what you're looking for. And then the other one is most important, governance. As a democratic system, there is governance. And we have 3 types of governance. Federal, state, and we have local government. Many parts of the world doesn't have. We are fortunate to have, under the 73rd and 74th Amendment, that local governments are equally, or more powerful actually, if they are doing. So now the data of our planning is now being encouraged. Space-based information system for decentralized planning, where there was the first project director for that, and also urban for Atal program of all the 500 odd, and also for the smart cities. Data is being made by vendors or the industry and goes straight away through Bhuvan portal to the local bodies. They do the planning and comes back again, which is published with no cost to the state government. Because all the portals, the servers, everything is maintained by the government. You don't have to spend any money on it. All the data is in the money. Even the government of Telangana has did for the medium and minor irrigation dams, where to take out the silt, which farms you keep, exactly survey number wise. And then now we know where the yields are improved and how the groundwater levels are increasing because we restored all the water bodies in that region. Everything is being monitored and put in the public domain, that is Bhuvan. No cost. So government also, prior to our pandemic, okay, we are talking post this thing, independence, but also prior to pandemic, there quite a few things happened. The Manrega program, to whom it is going, why it is going, no record. So we said we'll come. They want to buy some because we have so many villages, so they want to come with so many mobiles. We said don't do that. In whatever mobile it is, we'll make a Geo Manrega. So government was spending 30,000 crores prior to pandemic, and even at RE time, we increased that to 8,000 crores. What is the entire resource budget? It's very minimal. Okay? Why I'm telling you these numbers for youngsters is the business is, whenever the more money is there, more business for you. If you are able to give a small idea out for that. That has become, during the pandemic, they added 60,000 crores. So it became 1,00,000 crores. Sorry, 1,00,000 crore. So that is where, because they know exactly where it is going, and you can go into Bhuvan, click your village, see what is happening in your village, who are the beneficiaries, how many are small farmers, large farmers, or landless laborer, during the time when they need work, what type of work. And being a geographer, what I did is, I brought the water conservation also to be part of it. See, silent, this is what I was telling you. Whenever the finances things are happening, as a scientist or an academician, we have to see how it get your thoughts and ideas to water conservation based things should be implemented under Geo Manrega. But it will not happen 100%. Please, even it happens 50%, it's good. That watershed development guidelines implementing, is it being done scientifically totally? No, I don't know. But it can be done, but to certain extent it will be being done. But that 50% is what giving you more than 300 million tons today. Please understand this. So don't negate certain things which is not happening. But now as we look at how we can make the business out of it. So you should, I have seen you have a computer science department here, there are many other departments which are located, and you have a good mathematician here. What type of new algorithms? Why we are buying this software from elsewhere? How we can make it by ourselves? It can be done. And I know for very remote villages, even the women have come, the girls, students have come, and because being in Nagpur, small places, they used to come to my house. In fact, my wife also joins me here. She also wants to come to Aligarh Muslim University, all the way from Trivananthpuram. Because I told very high about this. Giving an opportunity for each one of you to represent and express yourself. And that is where, unless we come here, we don't feel. That's where I requested, and she is kind enough to travel all the way. And also for ISRO, you're all going to have satellites called ResourceSat, CortoSat. Another one which I didn't mention is OceanSat. Today we have 7,500 kilometers, and with islands everywhere, we have huge wealth of fisheries. So the INCOIS, the agency, also has identified, and then they give the information of for a fisherman where exactly, which location, where we want to go. And also Navic, our own navigation, which is important for geographers. This is where exactly telling the time, the location. That's the fourth dimension in GIS. The time comes here. and that is more accurate. And when I'm telling GeoManrega, without navigation, I cannot tell accurately, and that data cannot be changed. Once you take with that app, it is fixed for that location, for the time, and the data what is located with that. So that no one can corrupt at any point of time. That makes your job much easier. And when we gave 5 names for the Prime Minister for giving that navigation, IRNS is what it is called, he took Navi. Of course, navigation for Indian continent, that's what is this thing. But then he looked at it from a different angle. Down on the land, the ocean people know, so Navi. So the word when you pronounce, it makes for the fisherman more. And today, for the fishermen are able to get a messaging where to go extra level for get their fishing. Even they take a prediction from here, it will keep changing, but the currents keep changing. And our satellites are all doing well. But please understand, our satellites are global. Why you want to in India? The satellite data is everywhere. And you have the huge heterogeneity in this country. So whatever model you are doing and proving here, you can do business anywhere in the world. Because everyone wants to know this information about the ocean resources. And this ocean sat 3 which is going to come is going to have color, is going to have the sea surface temperature, is also going to have the wind vectors. That means it tells of the ocean vectors in how they move with time. So the fish feed, how it is moving we can do. So these are all the great opportunities for all of you to become entrepreneurs. And this doesn't need money because the data is there, only you need your laptop and your software for processing. And as I was telling you, the software is also free softwares are available in which you can do. And if you type YVN Krishnamurthy on Google, you can get many of my addresses, you can trace me, track me. So I'm most of the time I'm happy to interact with you if you have certain thinking to work on business opportunities. Whichever subject you deal with, either it can be sensors, it can be payloads, it can be, because we also launched an InSpatsat-1 satellite, which is done by 3 batches of students in 3 different years. We always think a PhD student is there with me for 3 years, then only we get some idea. No, I don't agree on that. I'm always back with BTech students who have 3 months or 4 months to think and do a project because they don't have time. So they can stretch themselves beyond. And of course the MTech students, they all really did well. The software package which Atik Ahmed has told is all done by BTech and MTech students, not by PhD students. And they're all being operationally used today. Either for ocean, for fisher, when you talk about fisherman predictions, etc., you cannot tell buy ArcInfo or Redas Imagine, maintain them, they're very expensive. So those modules have been developed and it is available. And also because environment, because of climate change, there are 56 essential climate variables which has to be mapped very accurately and quantified. Out of the 56, 23 are amicable for space technology. Today, out of the 23, 14 are being done, and in NRSA website you can see the data which are climate qualified. That means they can stand in the global world to tell where, what, and how to do. But finally, you all want to become smart mobile, smart sensors, smarter than others. So that means the volume of the data which is coming, the variety of the data, they are not the same formats what we talk about. And the velocity with which you have to process is the business, because everyone wants real time. That means when you're walking, what will be the weather here? So when a farmer is walking, when I had to put a fertilizer, but the fertilizer is not NPK. Please understand, micronutrient blend fertilizer. For that, government is started already this soil health cards. And they started for 36,000 entrepreneurs across the country to advertise. But always see the difference, what is talked in a room and when it comes out, people look at only the tail, not the tiger. So it's not told properly. They thought it is for the farmers, but how farmers will give money for the soil health card? It is actually for the fertilizer industry. And today it caught up in a big way. There are entrepreneurs, my own alumni around 13 have started their own startup companies in terms of insurance, taxation. I'm telling you again, money. Money drives the world, not science and technology. I'm making it loud and clear. If your thoughts and ideas has to be really come, even as for charity, we are working for benefit like a voluntary, kindly introduce that element of finances, not for your benefit, but at least it gets implemented. That's where we have to put. Thanks again, sir, for giving me this wonderful opportunity. Any one of you in figures of ideas, I wish that